We have a developing story. The Obama administration is accusing Russia of sending attack helicopters to support the Assad regime, and they're warning about a dramatic escalation in Syria's 15-month conflict. We got Grocott here on the set with us to explain that. And Jeff, you're on the foreign desk over at the other end of the room. We spent all the day poring over the wire reports, talking to our many correspondents in the Middle East about what's going on. And this is a big deal. Explain why.
Right. Well, Hillary Clinton said today that Russia's sending the attack helicopters to Syria. It's not so much a big deal. We know that Syria has attack helicopters, and we also know that Russia has been arming Syria. What's been happening, though, for months and months is that the U.S. has been trying to get Russia to back its plan to push Assad out of power. Russia has continued to support President Assad, in part because it arms the president. Russia has always said our arms aren't being used against the Syrian people. And today what appears to be happening is it's a U.S. effort to catch Russia out in a lie by saying you are arming and you are using these attack helicopters.
That is the big deal of it, is the U.S. coming out and saying this diplomatically out in the open.
It appears to
You're doing that. That's what they appear to be saying, reading between the lines.
A pretty hard diplomatic push. And it's happening as you say, the conflict is 15 months old. It started as a peaceful conflict. This week, for the first time, there are reports, and the UN is corroborating this, that the Syrian regime is using attack helicopters against its people. So that's new. And so as Syrian forces are using helicopters, the U.S. is drawing the line and saying Russia is actually supplying helicopters to Syria. And it says there are shipments coming. That's what Clinton said today. Not only that they have supplied, but Russia is actively sending more. So
what we also know about Russia is that Syria is home to Russia's only port, basically on the Mediterranean Sea, right?
That's true. And so Russia has interest to support there in Syria, and it's getting more complicated all the time. In the last couple months, there was a UN push to put a ceasefire in place in Syria. That appears not to have worked. And in the last couple of weeks, you're seeing what people in the international community and inside Syria themselves are starting to say looks much more like a civil war, where you have Sunnis against Alawites, which is the ruling party. And
the Alawites are the ruling party of which Assad is a part.
Of President Assad. And if you have that sort of a sectarian us against them dynamic, and you have more fighting, and then you have the U.S. accusing Russia of backing the other side, you're looking at a difficult international situation.
We've also had heard accusations that children are being strapped to the front of Syrian army tanks as a sort of a human shield against those tanks being attacked by rebels. We're hearing continued massacres of women and children as well as men. We're continuing to hear about these atrocities.
And also today, the UN observers were trying to get into one town that's been apparently shelled pretty mercilessly for about 8 days, and the UN observers were shot at trying to get into this town.
So when does someone stand up and say what looks to the untrained eye as that this looks like a civil war to me, and I'm not a trained observer in these sort of things, but how bad does it have to get? This sounds pretty awful.
It's pretty much happening today and yesterday. The US and the UK both separately compared Syria to the Balkans, Bosnia yesterday, and the head of UN peacekeeping today, when asked, does this look like a civil war, told reporters, yes, it does.
And how soon, if ever, before the West gets drawn into trying to enforce some peace on this with military action, as we were involved in Libya?
Well, it's a completely different ballgame than Libya. Nobody wants to get involved in the West. This is right at the core of the Middle East.
Let's be real here. How bad? This is bad. This is awful. Hundreds and hundreds of people are dying and getting killed and getting slaughtered, basically. Yeah. How bad does it have to get before somebody says, well, you know, we didn't really want to get involved, but we now do? I mean, is there a body count at which people can't stand it anymore?
I don't think there is, and we've been asking this question for months and months and months. This is the next level of escalation. We'll see. There is no eagerness on any side to get involved in what would be a sectarian conflict that would draw in many more parties than just Assad and his adversaries. It would be parties on all sides of the Middle East.